The Mission Impossible series has become one of the most dependable action franchises in the modern day. With Tom Cruise as a star and producing helm of the films, he and his passion for cinema have cultivated a collection of blockbusters where each entry somehow manages to top the previous with how far it's willing to go. Interestingly though, this isn't how the franchise started. While newer MI films get our hearts pumping with Cruise's death-defying stunt work that he insists on doing himself, if we go back to the first Mission Impossible film, we see that the thrills came from a very different type of suspense. For the 1996 Mission Impossible film, Cruise personally selected Brian De Palma to come on board as director. Together, the two of them focused on adapting the 60s television show not into a fast-paced action flick, but a brooding, twisty spy thriller. De Palma was just coming off Carlito's Way, and believe it or not, this first MI entry has a lot more in common with that film than it does Fallout or Rogue Nation. The biggest moments in this film aren't exciting because things go boom, but because of how the narrative's twists and turns shock and surprise us. It sets things up right in front of our faces, only to reveal them 30 minutes later, and these twists are exciting to try to keep up with. Puzzling plots like this are classic De Palma, but it's hard to discuss the director's style without at least mentioning Alfred Hitchcock. Hitchcock is far and away De Palma's biggest influence, and we can see that influence spread all throughout this Mission Impossible film. Take the first 30 minutes. We spend all this time setting up a star-studded team of IMF agents, showcasing the likes of Emilio Estevez and Kristen Scott Thomas, only to have them all get wiped out and disappear for the rest of the movie. It'd be like if Jeremy Renner was just killed off 10 minutes after his introduction of Ghost Protocol. Looking at the actual cast of the film, we can see that his style also carried over into those decisions as well. While Ving Rhames would go on to appear in every MI film onward, the only to do so along with Cruise, De Palma and Cruise brought him onto this film fresh off his work in Pulp Fiction. The same goes for Jean Reno, who had just got done starring in Leon the Professional. For this film, they are bringing on actors from pulpy neo-noir thrillers, not Superman. De Palma's iconic style doesn't just ooze into the narrative, but into the visuals as well. This film doesn't look anything like what we now expect a Mission Impossible film to look like. De Palma brings in non-stop Dutch angles, giving every conversation this chilling eeriness. He implements bizarre POV shots, long exaggerated zooms, and the lighting throughout the entire Prague sequence feels so much like a giallo film it's uncanny. You can't forget the fact, however, that while the director was specifically selected, this was still a big studio blockbuster. He wasn't allowed to go full De Palma, and we can feel this restraint come and go throughout the film, but that's honestly what makes it so perfect. This movie is to De Palma what Jackie Brown is to Tarantino. It's got all the visual flair and iconic style of the filmmaker behind it, but just slightly toned down and restrained, making it all the more palatable. Now, while this film clearly didn't set out to be a full-fledged action movie, there are still a few stunts baked into it. However, they feel very different when we compare them to modern MI films. They're more so stunt shots than they are entire sequences, and the intentions behind them aren't quite the same. Seeing Tom Cruise hang onto the side of a plane in Rogue Nation, for example, is exciting because we know he's really doing it. Watching him bust out of a window in this film as water pours around him isn't cool because it's dangerous. It's just an awesome looking shot. The only time they let the action completely take over is in the last 10 minutes, but it honestly feels so out of place that it's like we've suddenly stepped into a different movie. This needlessly over-the-top climax is where John Woo would eventually take the second Mission Impossible film fully, completely transforming the MI franchise. Once audiences saw Cruise free hanging from cliffs and driving motorcycles through flames, expectations completely changed. They no longer wanted Ethan Hunt's charisma, they wanted his death-defying antics. That charisma is what made this first film so special though. In 1996, Cruise was still willing to be a dangerous actor, having just come off films like The Firm and Rain Man, and about to give outstanding performances in Magnolia and Eyes Wide Shut. He brought an extreme amount of charm to Ethan Hunt, a personality that is unimaginable in the newer entries.
Don't you mean this?
That's not the least.
Oh, what's the matter? You've never seen this trick? Where'd it go?
It's impossible to picture the modern day character behaving with this sort of attitude. But that's because back in 1996, Ethan Hunt was a spy, not a superhero.